It looked like the Cats were heading for disaster, and then Otega, Oweh, and Denzel Aberdeen came up clutch in a huge win over Missouri.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of the show, we are going to be recapping Kentucky basketball's 78-72 win over the Missouri Tigers, a huge win in Nashville, first time since 2018 that the Cats have won back-to-back games in the SEC tournament. They will now play Florida by any means necessary, and the Cats find a way to get it done despite a 16-point lead crumbling down the stretch. Otega, Oweh, and Denzel Aberdeen deliver for Kentucky in the clutch. Can the Cats find a way tomorrow against the Gators, who have played very well against UK both times they have faced off? Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. And if you're watching on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the show here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, or subscribe on audio if you're listening this on postcast. Really quick reminder to everybody who's watching on YouTube, listening on podcast, you can join the Locked On Kentucky Bracket Challenge. Link is in the description. Trying to get as many of you guys in there. There's already like 40 or so of you in there. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining that, if you will. And let's go ahead and get into it. 78-72 is the final score by any means necessary. I understand a 16-point lead was blown in this game, but you have to understand we've got to look at the positives here. First of all, Kentucky won. Second of all, Kentucky built that 16-point lead against a team that embarrassed you on your home floor earlier this year, and then they found a way to close out. This was not a curl up and die moment from Kentucky. They found a way to survive, and that's what you have to do in March. And the fact that Kentucky was able to get that out of their system, obviously they blew the game late against Missouri the first go around. To get that out of your system and to lock in, focus, and finish, to fight and then finish is exactly what Kentucky needs to have the mentality and the momentum and energy that they need to have here in March. If they get up and the team fights back, they have to find a way to close and deliver a knockout punch. That's what Kentucky's two senior backcourt players, Denzel Aberdeen and Otega Oweh, did in this game. A couple of really clutch buckets, Otega Oweh doubling Mark Mitchell in a crucial spot. This was a great performance, in my opinion, from Kentucky's backcourt, and that's what they have to get from here on out. They need all three of their guys, Oweh, Aberdeen, Chandler, playing excellent basketball today. Not only were they scoring at the most important times, but they were also, I think, distributing the ball well. And then on top of that, I thought they played much better defense than they did against LSU. And they're going to have their hands full again against Florida, a team that has shown they can cause Kentucky a lot of problems in transition, in the half court, what have you. They're going to have their hands full defensively. But I think Kentucky answered the call. They responded well today after such a weird performance yesterday and what should have been a blowout. And defensively, there were a lot of different things that I think that they struggled with in this game. That was not the case. I think the only thing that I was truly upset about was Malachi Marino not closing out on that Mark Mitchell three. That was the only thing where I was like, that's a problem where you have to get out there and contest. Outside of that, Mark Mitchell got his. I mean, he's clearly just a matchup problem for everyone in the SEC, but especially for Kentucky down low. He was just unconscious in the second half, and there's really not a whole lot you can do about that. I think Kentucky outside of that really did handle their business, as no other player for the Tigers finished with more than 13 points, and the guy that did have 13 points did so on 4 of 11 shooting. Unbelievable, the response from Kentucky after such a weird game yesterday to come out and to punch Missouri in the mouth and to really start to close this thing out in the second half. And I understand basketball is a game of runs. Kentucky got pretty tired there towards the end of the game. I mean, it was obvious Kentucky was tired there towards the end of the second period of play, and yet they find a way. People in the live chat talking about Brandon Garrison, who I think does need credit in this one, did not score a point, did not take a shot, played 9 minutes and fouled out, but he gave the energy. He gave the intense focus that you wanted from Brandon Garrison. And every game's not going to be an 18-point, a 17-point outburst where you knock down a couple of threes. You've got to be able to grit and grind through every contest where sometimes it's not about you. And that's something that I think this team could really start to learn and acknowledge. And it's something that Andrea Jelovich actually said after the loss to Florida to close the regular season. This is me ball at times from Kentucky. What you see on offense, and then at times what you see on defense, where they just don't give the intensity and the care that they should to each and every possession. And at this point in the postseason, it's more heightened than ever. Your focus needs to be. And so when you have guys that are turning down open teammates, and they're not running their sets, and they're playing me ball, they're trying to get to their shot, they're trying to score their points. Yes, at times you can have that, especially when you look at a guy like Mark Mitchell, who is clearly a matchup problem. But Kentucky doesn't necessarily have any matchup beaters, so to speak. They have to play as a team in order to play really good basketball. And when we saw them get up, they were playing really good team basketball. They were forcing turnovers. They were capitalizing on mistakes. And they were knocking down shots when it mattered most. And they built their lead, honestly, despite a poor shooting effort all around, especially from deep. You have to have that style of ball moving forward. You cannot have any more of this, which is what caused the comeback. Me ball, slowing down possessions, taking the air out of the ball and just holding on to it, not creating, like Jimmy Dykes continued to say, not moving the ball from side to side, getting Missouri's zone defense moving, getting the ball into the middle of the floor where you can make different things happen. Kentucky had several guys that they could have just thrown the ball into that were making cuts into that tie paint area, and they just simply ignored it for the majority of the second half. I think Kentucky can do a much better job of playing more cohesively, and we've seen them at times do that this year, right? We've seen them play complete basketball. They just have not been able to do it for 2 games in a row. Here you get a game where I would argue, from start to finish, was complete. You battled. Missouri came back and took the lead. You responded. I think still in the second half, you shot pretty well. That's the reason why I would say, Kentucky played a complete game here. Just they started well. They played a good second half. They blew a lead, and yet they still shot 50% from the floor, 40% from deep in the second half. Can you put 2 games together, I guess is what I'm saying. And can you not blow a lead against Florida, who doesn't have a Mark Mitchell type, but they've got 3 guys that I think could stress you in your front court in similar ways? They also play with so much more tempo, and they will try and turn you over a lot more than Missouri did today. This, I would say, was Kentucky's most complete game, especially considering they were able to respond in the last few weeks. Is it perfect? No. But is it more complete than anything that we've seen recently? Yeah. And so maybe that's the silver lining here, is that Kentucky is playing the right style. They have the right mentality. You got to hear Colin Chandler and Denzel Aberdeen talk about how they didn't want to lose focus whenever the lead was dwindling. They had to play like they had a lead because they did. And so I think that mentality, understanding your emotions, keeping them in check, and controlling the team as well, playing complete team basketball, is what's going to get Kentucky far in March if they do make a run. Now, again, there were some issues. Obviously, Mark Mitchell being a big problem. You have to ask the question, does Florida attack Kentucky in the paint the way that Mitchell did? But also at the same time, I really like what Mark Pope was drawing up here today as far as what Kentucky was doing in the paint. They actually outscored the Tigers in the paint 42-38, 21 points coming from Otega Oweh, Denzel Aberdeen not hitting 16 points as well, despite shooting just 4 of 12 from the floor. Colin Chandler with 15 points. He had a few shots drop inside the arc. Actually, a couple of them were breakaway dunks, and then he had a really nice drive. And something that Chandler said in the post game immediately on the broadcast, and I thought this was really interesting, is that he was saying, I think the scouting report on me is a little bit different. And if you watch this Missouri game back, you'll realize what he's talking about as far as teams understand now that you cannot leave him. You have to tag him and you have to chase him whenever Kentucky's running their off-ball sets to get him open. You cannot leave him open from 3 because he is so deadly. catch and shoot, it's effectively a 50-50 game that you're playing. And if he's able to get out of the shooting slump, it might be worse than that. So Chandler now has to be a little bit more aggressive, both with the ball in his hands and then off ball, finding different ways to score that isn't just catch and shoot three stuff. And he had a couple of drives in this game. Now, he did have a couple of turnovers, but you're not going to grow, especially in a postseason tournament like this, if you don't learn and then capitalize. And so, yes, there's a couple of turnovers, but also I thought you got to see some good things from him. Outside of that, he's learning. He acknowledges it, which is a really great thing. The team acknowledges it, and I'm curious to see what Kentucky has in store tomorrow for Florida offensively, because yeah, the Gators have been able to put up just about anything they've wanted to on the Cats, but at the same time, Kentucky's still scoring 77 in the most recent game, 83 the first time in Gainesville. This is a winnable game for Kentucky tomorrow. You have to come out and you have to play with the fight that you had in this one. I understand you're tired. I understand it's the third game in 3 days. You have the ability to win this one. And if you do, it could be monumental for your season. Huge for your season if you're able to find a way to get off this 7-seed line. A couple of big wins here today and yesterday. You're going to have the Gators on Friday here tomorrow. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll continue to break this one down, get to the live chat, see what you guys have to say about this one in just a little bit. Before we do it, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Mazda.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Texas won its first ever SEC championship on Sunday, beating South Carolina 78-61 and snapping the Gamecocks' 3-year run as SEC tournament champions. In the Big Ten championship, UCLA dominated Iowa 96-45. The 51-point margin is the most lopsided title game in Big Ten tournament history. With a resume that includes 18 Quad 1 wins and one of the toughest schedules in the country, UCLA is making a serious push for the overall number 1 seed. But UConn has held that spot all season and remains the nation's only unbeaten team. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood markets change the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. You're no longer just a spectator, play-by-play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. All right, continuing along here on today's episode of the show, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Subscribe wherever you are watching if you have not already. Kentucky 78, Missouri 72. Cats win a second game in Nashville by any means necessary, and they get it done. They avoid disaster, they claw, and they fight, and they come out on top against the second round of Tigers that they faced in this tournament, and now they'll face the Gators here on Friday. And I know the computer models in Vegas heading into this game against Missouri said Kentucky should win this game, and they ended up actually covering. Kentucky had like a 65% chance to win this one. The lines had Kentucky as like a 3.5-point favorite. Well, they're favored to lose by 10 tomorrow, predicted to lose by 10 tomorrow, I should say. Ken Palm only gives Kentucky an 18% chance. Frankly, that's probably about where it should sit. This Gator team is well rested. They have played Kentucky very well twice. It feels like Todd Golden has the Gators getting up for this one consistently against Kentucky, especially after losing to Mark Pope in his Mark's first season a year ago. And I think he's got even more incentive now that one of his point guards, which was going to be a lead player on this Florida team, left in the offseason for UK. There's the Denzel Aberdeen factor. There's the revenge factor for him. Now that he's gotten revenge and swept the Wildcats, it's now Kentucky's time to respond. And the only game that I can think of where Kentucky maintained their composure, played a complete game, and won, and it was like it was clear Kentucky was there to play, and they were the better team that day. This season against quality competition was the Arkansas win on the road. By the way, that can't be understated how big of a win that was in Bud Walton. I believe I saw someone tweet this out a couple of days ago. Kentucky's the only team to win in Bud Walton this season outside of the Hogs. 17-1, I believe, is what Arkansas was at home this year. And now Kentucky's got to go in against Florida, and they've got to fight. They've got to fight like they did today. And I know they'll be tired. They'll be gassed. They'll be trying to rest up. Diabate, who I thought played really, really well today, fought hard in this game. He is banged up. Garrison will have to continue to fight against a loaded Florida front court. Kentucky's got to stay on shooters. Xavier Lee is crafty. He's quick. Clavshar is hard to keep up with, but they've got to fight. They have got to fight and show that they're capable of doing it again, that they're capable of winning again with full intensity from start to finish. Brian Panther in the chat says, "Me ball is what we've been seeing all year with ball and players movement and no screens leading to many issues on the offense." It is wild to me that at this point in the year, you are in the postseason and Kentucky will get up. They will be controlling a game. They will be threatening to take it over, go up by double digits and hold the lead. And they will immediately give up a little run, a 7-0 run that maybe is broken up by a free throw or two, a 4-0 run, a 5-0 run. They just give up little runs here and there. It's not kill shots that kill Kentucky, the Evan Mia stat. It's just bad focus. It's just a lack of focus and care and attention to detail for each and every possession. They don't consistently make the right decisions when they start winning. And that's a problem. They have to fight. And when they are playing well against the Gators, if they do tomorrow, they have to hold. They have to hold serve. Give every single possession the attention it deserves. Care for it like it's a child. Care for it like it's your own. You don't get many more of these. And I think Otega, Oweh, and Denzel Aberdeen, if you tell them that, and if it's not already circulating in their mind, if you tell them that, they'll be like, I know. And I bet they do. But their actions on the court don't consistently show it. So can you bring that intensity? And I'm not asking you to slow the game to a crawl and run a set every single time down the floor to get the best shot, right? But I'm asking you to do it more often, especially when you're playing with a lead. Make the right decision. Don't go willy-nilly. Don't play chaos ball. You're not the chaos ball team that you were a season ago. You are much more methodical. You have to be. And you have to be much more thoughtful in your approach to every single time you bring the ball up the floor or every single time you're backpedaling to get back on defense. You have to be thoughtful. And I really do hope that Kentucky brings it tomorrow. I want to win so badly, y'all. I want it so badly. And it's gonna be so sweet for all those Florida fans if Kentucky drops this one by 15 tomorrow to rub it in our face again. Because let me tell you something. Florida fans are loud, they're obnoxious, and they will not shut up on social media or in the YouTube chat, for instance. I actually had to check my mentions earlier. I was checking my mentions earlier today, and I got a few Florida people in there, and I checked, and they're following me now, which is just bizarre. It's like, okay, I mean, if you really want to keep up with Kentucky that badly, I mean, subscribe, follow. I'm not going to tell you no. But this would be a big one, not to jab back at Florida fans, not necessarily to shut them up, because Florida's going to go on the run of their own in March. I've said it. Go back and listen to what I said about Todd Golden whenever Kentucky was looking for a head coach after John Calipari. I think he's a pretty good coach, y'all. I think it's a pretty good team. I think it's a pretty good program. It would be really nice to finally get one against a one of the 10, arguably 5 best teams in the sport. Actually, I would argue that they are top 5. They're not top 10 at this point. They're playing really, really good ball. To get one And even if you lose the next day against Tennessee or whoever, you find a way. You find a way to win one against the Gators. That would be so big. Kentucky is now 10-0 in games where BG gets a technical. Has he already gotten 10? Has he already gotten 10? Biker Believer says, Dennis Gates is a good coach. He got Missouri playing good ball. They played very desperate. I got to say, man, I remember, and I won't say where. I was at an SEC venue, and I was sitting there as just media, not for either team, a couple of years ago. And Missouri had gotten crushed. And I remember him sitting down and asking questions. Like, does anybody have any? And I didn't have a question. Nobody in that room had a question. And he's looking me dead in the eyes because I'm sitting pretty much in the middle of the room, just staring me down for a few seconds, like waiting to see if I have anything to say. But I didn't have a question. I mean, his team just got thrashed. And he's like, okay, appreciate y'all. And kind of storms out. I mean, I would be a little upset too. A little embarrassed. And I remember thinking in that moment, like just looking over what Missouri had been doing up until that point in the season. I'm like, he's a good coach. To come from Cleveland State and to bring Missouri to consistent competency. Yes, he had that 8-24 year, but to get 20+ wins out of this program 3 out of the 4 years that he's been there. And to frankly not have the best personnel. I mean, he's got some talent coming in next year, y'all. I mean, he's got some really good talent coming in next year. But I mean, you've got Mark Mitchell, and outside of that, I mean, you're kind of having to fight with what you're working with. I think he's a good coach. I think, frankly, I think a lot of coaches in this league are really, really good. I would be really curious to see what Ole Miss does next year, bouncing back, because Chris Beard is too good to be 13-19 consistently in this league. I thought they were going to be much better this year, and dead wrong. Hold my hand up on that. But I think some of the new guys in this league, if you want to look at Mark Byington at Vanderbilt, if you want to look at Bucky McMillan at Texas A&M, I mean, there's a lot of Dennis Gates at Missouri. I mean, there's a lot of really good up-and-coming coaches in this league. Todd Golden obviously just won a freaking title. Nate Oates has been here for a while, but he's establishing himself now. A very, very, very good coach. There's a lot of good coaches coming in. And I'm very curious, and we've talked about this a little bit on the show recently. I'm curious to see what Tennessee does after they move on from Rick Barnes, whenever he retires. I don't know when that's coming. I'm curious to see what Arkansas does when John Calipari retires or moves. I'm curious to see, honestly, what Georgia does when Mike White decides that he's done. Now, that might not be for a few more years, but still, there's a lot of moving and shaking to be done in this league, and curious to see if teams like Vandy, A&M, I mean, Florida's going to consistently be here. Alabama's going to consistently be here. Kentucky, I hope, is consistently here. But, I mean, it's a good league with good teams, and Missouri is well coached. They just had a couple of mistakes today, frankly, with turnovers. Kentucky capitalized. 17 points on Missouri's 15 turnovers. There was Kentucky was going to get another fast break dunk from Chandler, and he just couldn't hold on to the ball. And then Otega left a shot short at the rim. Would have been 2 more points you could have added to this total. But like the mistakes for Missouri today cost them, and that's not Gates' fault. I mean, it was just balls bouncing everywhere, pause, just loose, careless mistakes at times. But I think that's a good team, and they'll end up making the NCAA tournament more than likely. And best of luck to them. Man, what is going on in the live chat? If we were going to the Florida game with fresh legs, I think we have a much better shot. I would agree, Captain Crash. I agree. Someone says, tired of Garrison and his mouth running. He will cost us games because of his arrogance. Hasn't happened yet. Hasn't happened yet. And considering he only played 9 minutes today, and I thought he was fine. Actually, he was positive on the day in terms of plus minus. He had 4 blocks. I mean, when Sean Phillips gets up in your face, I mean, are you backing down from that? I doubt you are in the heat of the moment. It's not. I don't necessarily know if it's arrogance is how I would describe it. Isn't he almost perfect if Garrison does run his mouth off? Yeah, I guess you could say that. UK takes way too many Pope doesn't want that shots, especially Aberdeen. I would agree. And that's not Aberdeen's strength, right? I mean, that was the scouting report coming in from Florida. He's not a guy that shoots well off the dribble. He's actually all the way down to 34.9% on the year shooting from three. He has been ice cold from deep for several games in a row now, where he's gone 0 of 3, 1 of 6, 1 of 5, and 1 of 4. He's made it up from the charity stripe. He's also passing the ball really, really well, which is something I think you have to give him credit for, that the urge to take a ill-advised shot, but at the same time to finish with 7 assists and 1 turnover for a guy that played between the 2 and the 3 at Florida. I mean, how much can you really complain? We're kind of working with what we have, and if he has a game where he makes some, then I mean we're going to be jumping up and down, screaming in our chair. Jeff says, I hope Jasper comes back, but he can put on weight and muscle, but it's his basketball results that are maddening. Like the show. Appreciate you tuning in, Jeff. I'll say this. I don't want to rag on him too hard. In 6 minutes today, I mean, you can't consistently put him out on the floor. I mean, he's not strong enough. He doesn't make the right decisions. He is insanely turnover prone and just in such limited action. One of the most underwhelming performances from a 5-star prospect at Kentucky that I can remember in recent memory. I mean, it's been bad. It's been a really, really, really bad showing from Jasper this year. I don't know if he's going to be on the team next year. If he is, I would really hope he puts on about 20 pounds and figures out how to actually handle the ball and make the right decisions with the rock. Frankly, I hope that instead of forcing him into a role where he has to do all of that, Kentucky goes out and gets some players that can facilitate and control a game better when they put in their backup point guard, because he has just not been even remotely close to what you need at backup point guard or at guard, period. So great Kentuckian, longtime listener, says, Lance, I hope we win tomorrow. The only issues we have had Florida is that we allow them to go on 10+ runs. We are one of the few teams in the SEC that can actually cut that lead from them. That is a very, very, very good point. That's a really, really good point. If Kentucky can stop the bleeding against Florida, and we've seen it in both games. Actually, I'll pull it up here. Where we've seen it in both games, where the Gators will just like bomb. All of a sudden, a 5-point lead turns into a 12-point deficit because you have gotten punched in the mouth and you can't get back up. In that first half against Florida, well, obviously they started the game off on an 11-0 run, and then they had another 15-1 run towards the middle of the first half, bleeding into the second period of the first half. And Kentucky has to be better about controlling the micro games within the game. Where you look up, Florida has 2 back-to-back baskets off of maybe a turnover or something. You can't just go, like freak out and let's put Jasper in and see if he can figure it out. Like, no. You have to play under control. Got to play under control. Got to focus. Again, attention to detail, care for every possession. And that does not mean be weak. That does not mean be slow. There will be opportunities which you should capitalize on when speed and force and physicality is needed. But you cannot be careless. You cannot make ill-advised shots early in the shot clock to feed into Florida's tempo and athleticism and chaos in transition. You have to stay under control. Kill shots will obviously kill you. That's why they're called kill shots. But not even 10-0 runs, 6, 7, 8, 9-point runs. It doesn't have to have a metric tied to it. You cannot bleed points when you can control yourself. And honestly, and I think I'm actually looking at the live chat, I think some of you are talking about this. Ted mentioned it. Captain Crash, I think, is mentioning it. This is where I'm about to go with this. You know, it'd be really cool to stop some of the bleeding is if you have a good shooting performance in Nashville. In Kentucky's 3 games so far this year, against Gonzaga, against Missouri, And against LSU yesterday, Kentucky has been dog water from three. They have been terrible. I'll pull this up here for you guys real quick. Against LSU, they shot 6 of 22, 27%. Against Missouri, they shot 28%. And against Gonzaga, the first go-round, 20.6%, 7 of 34 from three. If you can get some of these open shots to fall throughout the course of the game, I'm talking Colin Chandler, Denzel Aberdeen actually knocking down one, Otega Oweh getting a couple like he did today. Shoot, Andrea Jelovich getting a couple to fall if he's able to. He was 0 of 3 from deep today with 6 points and 6 boards. That will be so great. That will be so great. I just realized how long we've been talking. We gotta real quick. Before we wrap this up, I agree, 3-point shooting is going to be huge for Kentucky. Before we wrap this up, though, I do want to tell you guys real quick about our friends over at Coast Pay. Coast Pay is giving Locked On College listeners up to $2,000 in credit for your business when you get started today. If you manage a crew, construction, HVAC, landscaping, any operation with trucks on the road, you already know how messy gas and materials spending can get. Cards get shared, receipts disappear, and month end turns into a headache. Coast Pay fixes all of that. Coast Pay is the modern fuel card and expense management tool built specifically for fleets. Fuel management and maintenance materials all in one card with real control and instant visibility. It's built for operators who don't have time to chase paperwork, and unlike old fuel cards, there are no contracts or commitments, just smarter expense control. Right now, Coast Pay is offering our listeners up to $2,000 in credit when you get started at coastpay.com/lockedoncollege. That is coastpay.com/lockedoncollege to see how you can earn up to $2,000 in credit. Terms apply. The Coast Visa commercial credit card is issued by Celtic Bank. All card accounts are subject to credit approval. Today's episode is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. We're going to keep drafting. I don't care. We'll keep it pushing. 5 Hour Energy flavor draft 18 flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Cotton Candy, Fruity Rainbow. There's something for literally everyone. There's something for you. There's something for me. There's something for your grandmother. And I've been taking number 1 overall. You can't have the pick. I'm sorry. Confetti Craze has been my number 1 overall pick for a while. Yeah, lock in, guys. Because listen, I'm not a huge fan of sugar, right? I'm not a big fan of sweets to begin with, but this hits. It is an excellent flavor. The cake taste is phenomenal. And the cool thing about 5 Hour Energy shots, they give you that caffeinated boost, that fire you need to begin your day with zero sugar. That's right. Taste sweet, taste amazing, incredible flavors, but zero sugar. Insane. And they've got a ton of upcoming flavor innovations planned as well. You can find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. All right, let's wrap up today's episode. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Man, we have gone long, and we're going to continue to go longer. Pause on today's episode of the show. Thank you guys so much for watching. There's like 250 of you in the live chat, which reminds me, everyone watching right now, stop what you're doing. Stop what you're doing. Go to the description in this show. If you're watching on YouTube or on your computer, you can open up another tab. You can still listen. You can still comment. Go to the description and click the link to join the Locked On Kentucky Bracket Challenge. You'll see it after the description and blurb talking about today's episode. We're trying to get as many of you in there as possible. We got a few hundred the last couple of years. I want to do it again. I think it's super fun. Join up. Go join if you have not already. There's 250 of you in here right now. Go click that link and join. Do it. Robert says, hello, Lance. Do you think we could stop tall forwards and centers from scoring on us and still guard the 3 line? That's a great question. That's a great question. I don't know if Kentucky has the personnel to do that. I would say maybe. Maybe. It really just does depend on, again, shooting variance is a big thing. It's a big thing. Florida been shooting hot. You know, Gator boys stay hot. Ooh, they've been shooting really, really well as of late. And credit to them, they figured it out. They have finally regressed or progressed to the mean where their guards have been shooting really, really well over the last several games, especially Clavshar and Lee. However, who knows? Maybe they have a bad shooting performance from deep, and Kentucky's not necessarily guarding the 3 ball, but they're contesting shots enough, and Florida's just not hitting. And they're able to pack it in a little bit and see what they can do physically against Howe, Condon, Chinyulu, Handglot, It's crazy that Florida's got 4 freaking guys that they can go to. It's so crazy to me just how stacked they are. Some of those guys aren't going to be here next year. Actually, I don't know if any of them are going to be here next year. Well, Chinyelu can come back, but he might be going to the draft. Actually, all those guys are juniors. Yeah, I still think you're probably losing at least 2 of those guys. But yeah, I think that's a fair question. I think it's a really fair question. I think it would have to depend on shooting variance. Also, note to everyone in the chat, thank you, Great Kentucky and Auburn up 17-11 with 11 minutes and 13 seconds left in the first half on the Tennessee Volunteers. If Kentucky finds a way to miraculously beat Florida, wouldn't you? Hold on, let me get my bracket. Oh, I almost just threw it on the floor. No, you would be playing. You would be playing the winner of Tennessee Vanderbilt. I would take or Tennessee Auburn or Vandy Auburn. I'm an idiot. I'd like a rematch against Auburn. Got cheated the first time. Would like to see a rematch. I just wish the preseason Noah's the 3 points to the sniper talk panned out. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to not rag on one of our role players and say, yeah, he's a net negative, and then people come at you on Twitter and say, how could you say that? And then you talk about stats, and it's not just about 3-point shooting, and they're like, you're an idiot. It would be really nice if he was just knocking down shots, because at that point, you are providing some value. Congratulations. If you're open, we can trust you to hit threes. But if you can't consistently defend, stay on ball, you are not a great rebounder. Frankly, you were like any forward would be grabbing the boards that you are. I don't think it's anything special per se. You can't handle the ball. You can't create. You can't facilitate for others. You are just a dead weight on both ends of the floor effectively outside of just marginally positive rebounding. Like, it would be really, really nice if Noah played well. I agree. I mean, you would want him in spots like this. You would say Cam Williams is coming back. Great. That's even more depth to go alongside a guy like Trent Noah, which, by the way, shout out Cam Williams, a cool 1 of 2 today from 3. And the one that he made just sort of just rolled in off the back of the iron, just died on the back of the rim. It was really funny to watch. It was really funny to watch. But yeah, it'd be nice if Trent was playing well. Let's see. Need an unsung hero to show up to beat Florida, Yelovich, Noah Williams. I would agree. It'd be nice if Williams was that guy. Would you rather lose to Florida tomorrow or lose to Arkansas on Sunday? That's a good question. Can I abstain from that answer for a while? I want to think on that. Because I thought I had a good answer, and I don't think I do. We won't lose to Arkansas. I would pray not. Would rather make it to Sunday easily. I think I would rather make it to the SEC championship. That's what my gut said. It's like I would much rather lose to Arkansas again. Actually, that's what I've got written down, predicted on my bracket, actually. So, wish JQ would play tomorrow. Yeah, I wish he would too, man. Lot of talk online. We won't get into that. A lot of talk online about what's been going on with JQ over the last 2 weeks, and nowhere to be seen. This is not me knocking the kid. I'm just saying he's not playing. Does Dwight Howard deserve the Hall of Fame since he's retired? Only has 1 ring from 2020, but a lot of dominance in the 2010s. I think that you have to look at the entire list of accolades, right? He's got a few DPOIs. I think that as far as dominance, I mean, when you think about the 2010s and you think about some of the best centers, right? I think that Howard is one of the first guys you think of. So I think that just off of name recognition alone, and then the accolades of being one of the better defenders on the planet for a solid 5 to 7 years. I don't know why I'm diving into this. Gosh. I see Lowe on the sidelines all pumped up, convincing he's back. I don't think he's coming back, but I did notice earlier today. I'm like, I like the energy from Lowe. I like the energy from the bench, man. I really like the energy on the bench. Any update on the GM position for the Cats? So not any update on the GM position, but if you have not seen already, and I will try and pull this back up. Apologies that I am late on this. Yesterday, it was reported by On3 that Kentucky's targeting Keegan Brown to join the staff in a front office role. Previously, video coordinator with the Wisconsin Herd. He was on Mark Pope's staff at BYU. Scouting, analytics, and NIL strategy is what he would be bringing, and then help with roster construction. So I don't necessarily know if GM is the way I would describe Brown, but I would say that he would be a nice addition to the staff. Yeah. You think Pope's getting a GM, but nobody's calling him a GM to keep Pope satisfied? That would be interesting. I don't know. Seems like more of a scout than a GM. See, that's what I'm saying. I think that he's more of just like a lead scout, but also at the same time, I think you have to ask the question, what is everybody else on this staff doing? I mean, if they're not helping you with analytics, scouting, and roster construction, what are they doing? What is Mark Fox doing? What is Jason Hart doing? What is Alvin Brooks doing? What is Cody Feger doing? What are they doing? If those four guys can't do it, like, should they be here? I guess is a question I would be asking. And that's not to question their abilities as coaches, because I'm sure they're all very talented. I mean, there's a reason why Fox was the head coach of Georgia at one point, but I do question, like, if that's the case, then what are we doing? Not saying it is. I'm surprised Garrison made no attempt at all for that basket. Just 4 clutch blocks to keep UK ahead. Yeah, he fought hard. Just reading the comments, not sure what's being talked about. No, he's not the GM. At best, like we're saying, he's more of a scout than anything. More of a scout than anything. I think Pope is resisting getting a full-on GM because he's being stubborn. That could be it. And if he is, that wouldn't surprise me. Kind of fits how things have gone at Kentucky, where they've missed on a lot of prospects, a lot of opportunities. Pitino's getting a GM at the end of the season. I'm surprised that he is still pushing hard, man, at St. John's. How old is Rick? Pitino is 73 years old. My goodness, dude, still kicking. Love to see it. Rooting for him. All right. Guys, I think that's going to do it for today's episode of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. 42 minutes is a long time. We went long today, but you know what? I think this is a big one to talk about. Kentucky gets the win over Missouri. 78-72, 6-point victory. Cats improved to 21-12. You've got Florida here in the quarterfinals on Friday. This game's going to be played at 11 Central and 1 Eastern, noon Central time. Be there or be square. If you are in the vicinity of Nashville, get a freaking ticket and go and scream until you cannot speak anymore. Screw what people at the office need you for on Saturday or late Friday. Tell them you got something more important. You're calling in sick, because you will feel sick after the screaming that you'll do in Bridgestone Arena tomorrow. Go to that game if you can. Please go to that game. You can follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnUK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and you can follow the show over on Instagram at Kentucky Podcast. By any means necessary, Kentucky gets the dub against Mizzou. Florida tomorrow, a big-time opportunity for revenge. Can the Cats get it done? Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Enjoy the rest of the evening of college hoops, as it is beautiful this time of year. Stay safe, and God bless.